So finding this space here. Hands can come back behind the hips, fingers pointing away. And we'll do just a little bit of movement now. So with that same steady breath in and out through the nose, as you inhale, feel the sitting bones. Notice the weight shifting forward as your pelvis rocks forward a little bit towards the feet. The spine naturally extends, lifting the center of the chest, letting the top of the spine gently draw back. Take a deep breath in here. This is the first position of our movement. Notice that fullness of breath that you can create. And then on your exhalation, letting the bowl of the pelvis rock backwards, top of the spine, tops of the shoulders gently drawing forward. So you can notice the bottom of the exhale navel drawing in towards the spine. Just a little bit of energy in the core there. And again, on the inhale, you'll slowly rock the pelvis forward, working from the foundation and extending through the spine, lifting the chest, letting the top of the spine gently drop back. Moving back and forth at the pace of your breath. Let the breath initiate the movement. So the inhale starts the movement forward of the pelvis, then the lift of the ribs. The exhale, we start with the movement back of the pelvis, letting the upper spine follow. Final option, pushing through the feet. When you lift the ribs, add last movement of lifting the bowl of the pelvis up and away from the floor. And then as the pelvis comes down, again, you'll let the spine round. And the last action in the cat pose would be to gently guide the knees towards one another. Again, opening up, letting the spine extend first, and then lifting the hips second. And then lowering the hips back down, finding the spine rounding, and finally bringing the thighs towards one another. A couple more rounds here at your own pace of breath. Get nice, slow, steady movements, tuning into what starts to show up, where you find that energy is moving freely with the breath, with the movement of your body, or maybe where it's starting to get stuck. You're feeling a little bit of muscle tension or sensation, tension in the joints. And we want to be compassionate with ourselves, so if anything feels too intense on your body for today, you can just skip it or work in a slightly less intense range of motion, right? Not going quite as far. Okay, so now we'll come back to center. Walk the hands forward and just shake out your arms for a moment. So you should be now very aware of the base of the pelvis space. We'll use that a little bit in our practice today. I'm just gonna grab this yoga block. Now, if you don't have a yoga block, you can use a rolled up blanket or a towel. I've demonstrated that in previous videos, so feel free to check those out. Today I've just got my block, so that's what I'm gonna use. If you don't have any props, that's totally fine. You can still do this without. So we're gonna lie on the back. You've got your prop handy, feet near the front of the mat, scooching your hips towards the feet, and then rolling down onto your back or finding your way down onto your back, however is comfortable. If you have your prop, the yoga block works great. I'm placing it the middle width between my inner thighs, letting the head and shoulders rest on the mat. And turning my palms to face up today just to open up the fronts of the shoulders a little bit more. And you want the tops of the shoulders to ground into the floor, so you might need to shrug your shoulders slightly to create that. If that feels okay on your neck, that's a great space to be. Generally, we want to avoid packing our shoulders down, as that creates extra tension in certain muscle spaces that are probably already a little bit tight. So you want to be nice and open, soft in the chest, and just gently guiding the backs of the shoulder blades into the floor. With your feet grounded, we're going to again focus to the root of the body. So now you notice those sitting bones are pointing towards the heels. The space between the sitting bones is where we really want to focus our attention. I'm using my prop, whether it's a block or a rolled up blanket, towel, whatever you can find. I'm going to lightly squeeze that prop, and it's going to activate your inner thighs, which will give you an awareness of the junction of our inner thigh muscles, essentially that pelvic floor space, the space at the bottom of your pelvis. But when you exhale, find that squeeze of the block. Notice the bottom of the bowl tightens a little bit, so that's the action of the pelvic floor. Again, it supports essentially our pelvis and our spine as they connect. You release the squeeze as you inhale. Try to feel a sense of softness, especially in the outer hips, the backs of the thighs. And maintain that softness as you gently, again, squeeze the block. Focus on the base of the bowl, so tightening those muscles if you can find that. And then allowing the bottom of the bowl to lightly lift, just about an inch away from the floor. And notice what shows up there. As you inhale, you'll release back down, trying to relax, soften any spaces that were tight. On the exhalation, again, we find our squeeze and our gentle lift. Light press through the feet. You want to be sending energy down through the legs, but not forcing the energy into the muscles of the legs. So mostly we're working on just visualizing the bottom of the bowl lifting up. Now, as that feels more comfortable, you can start to lift the bottom of the bowl higher. As I lift the bottom of my pelvis, again, it attaches my spine to my hips. Essentially, lifting the hips or the pelvis will lift the spine. You can go all the way up to a bridge pose where there's a straight line from the knees through the hips to the tops of the shoulders. Visualize again that top point of the spine, the back of the roof of the mouth where it meets the skull, where the spine meets the skull, excuse me, and feel a reach through that space. So you're lengthening, you're creating again this flow of energy from root up through the third center of our body, which we call Jalandhara Bandha, the throat lock. Slowly release back down, let your ribs lower first, then the waist, and then the pelvis comes down last from wherever you were height-wise. Inhaling at the bottom. Rest in those inhales when you're supported by the floor underneath you. And then squeeze your block. Try to focus the energy into the root. So that bottom point begins to lift up. Then the ribs lift away from the floor. You can visualize the center of the rib cage lifting. Notice the back of the roof of the mouth extending. Inhaling at the top. Now, even as we start to lower down our ribs, can you keep that lift of the bottom of your bowl? So it's like you're slightly, again, curling up the bottom of your pelvis towards the ceiling as the ribs, the waist, and hips lower back down. And then again, inhaling at the bottom. So more so moving with an awareness of the body, less with a concept of where you need to go, right? Even height doesn't matter here. The rate at which you move doesn't matter. The number of rounds we create doesn't matter. But really that we're focusing on creating that flow of energy with our attention on each round, each breath, each movement. Again, exhaling, lowering my ribs. I'm going to continue to lift the bottom of my pelvis lightly upward. Even though it's moving downward in space, the bottom of the bowl is curling towards the ceiling or the sky, wherever you may happen to practice. Okay, one more round here just to feel that out. Squeeze your prop if you have it. Lift the bottom of the bowl and then let the rest of the body follow. Try to observe any little spaces where energy gets pulled out from your center. So you'll notice that as your body wiggling a little bit, or you may feel more effort in one space of the body, like the hamstrings, the glutes. Each breath, each movement, an opportunity for us to refocus into our center and just find that energy flowing with more balance once more. Okay, next time your hips have come back down to the mat, you're going to take an inhale and use your exhale to lift the feet. Now, if for some reason you don't have a prop today, you can just bring the knees and the ankles together, right? Creating the same idea here. We want to squeeze our inner legs towards the midline, naturally supporting the action of the pelvic floor. If you do have your prop, just keep it where it was. Your feet, knees, hips about the same width, okay? So you're trying to keep that parallel aspect to your lower limbs. We'll take the hands behind the head here. So as I'm ready, my elbow's nice and wide. I'm just focusing to the two ends of that line, the bottom of the pelvis, the top of the spine. On the exhale, again, squeezing my prop or just squeezing your legs together, lift the bottom point up just slightly, and then as you continue to breathe out, you're lifting the top of the spine to find this little cat-like position on your back. So you're exhaling on the way up. As you inhale, you'll release back down. Common tendency when we curl up, our hip flexors like to do some of the work, so the thighs would come towards your upper body. That's pretty common. If you can find, when you're lifting up, that happens, a little push forward with your feet so those thigh bones stay vertical, okay? Doing a few more rounds at your own pace of breath. Inhaling down, again, use that whispering breath through the nose. Strong exhale to lift up. If you don't have your prop, it looks like this. I'm just curling up, releasing back down. Okay, you only need to do a few before you really feel something here. Let's stay with this one last time, curling up, find that lift. Now on your inhale, just stretch the legs forward. As soon as you feel your bowl tipping forward, that's as far as you need to go. So we want to maintain the lift of the bottom of the bowl, and then we're bringing our thighs back over the hips. So again, you're inhaling to reach it forward, keeping the tailbone curling away from the mat, exhaling, bringing it back. Last round here. When your thighs are again over the hips, take another inhale. Use your exhale to rotate the chest towards or just outside of the right thigh. If you don't have your block, your chest will probably rotate just a little bit outside of the thigh bone. Squeeze the block, squeeze the inner thighs. Continue to curl the base of the pelvis up. Each time you twist, you're getting that little lift through your center. Breathe strongly here. Exhaling as you twist. Inhaling as you return. Last round to each side. Stay relaxed through the face and jaw. No need to waste energy there. Just staying focused in your center. Breathing out. And breathing in to come back. Release. And you should feel right away that amount of energy that's capable of being moved, that we are capable of moving within our bodies, right? And that comes from our focused attention with those little core movements. So that was round one. Let's go ahead and take our bridge pose again. This time, if you'd like to, reach your arms overhead onto the floor above you. You're squeezing your block, or if you want to release the block and just feel that energy that you created with that last practice, still present here, lifting up, giving a nice deep breath in at the top. If you're comfortable practicing retention, holding the breath, exhale the breath out at the top. So you're emptying your breath here, holding the breath out as you descend. Okay? If you don't feel comfortable to do that, just breathe out and lower back down using that whispering breath. Breathe in at the bottom. And normal exhale to rise up. Again, you can breathe in at the top, exhale as you descend, or if you're practicing holding the breath, empty the breath at the top. Feel the energy of lift through the center of pelvis, through the center of ribs, and descend. When you get to the bottom, that's when you breathe in. That'll just take the experience of the energy a little bit deeper for you. So one more round, up on the exhale, inhaling at the top. Again, you can choose to exhale the breath out at the top, or as you're descending, if you empty the breath at the top, hold the breath out as you lower, and then breathe in at the bottom. Our last round of movement for the core today on the back. So we're going to, again, lift the legs. No block this time. You can just guide your knees, inner thighs, ankles together. Arms are going to be out to the sides like a T. I want to look at the fronts of my knees here, seeing that they're kind of flush with one another. That's the space that you want to maintain. So you want to keep that alignment and that relationship with your legs. Now again, use your exhale. Press the back of the rib cage where your hand was at our meditation, all right, at the base of the rib cage. If you didn't follow that part of the practice, we're going to notice the back of the ribs push down, the bottom of the bowl lifts up. So this again helps to unite our core just by connecting through those central spaces. On the inhale, now allow your legs to drop to the right, left hip will lift off the floor. I'm only going as far as I can, keeping my knees flush. So as soon as my knees start to separate, I know I've lost a little bit of my connection, and I'm just gonna exhale, bring it back to center. Again, pressing my ribs down, curling the base of the pelvis slightly up, squeezing those knees so that they come back into that nice flush position, and then I'm going over to the other side, just as far as I can. Shoulders stay grounded, knees stay together. When you kind of reach that limit, big exhale, squeeze your inner thighs, tighten the bottom of the pelvis as you come back to center. So back and forth a few times. It's not about how far you're going here. Don't expect to go all the way to the floor unless you're really advanced in this practice and you've been doing it for a long time. You'll find that certain muscle spaces, again, tend to compensate or do more work, and that pulls us out of this alignment. So we just want to notice when that happens and try to bring the energy back when we return to center. Okay, a couple more rounds here. If you've got a really strong core and you're not feeling much with this, try straightening the legs, reaching through the heels. And again, you want to keep the feet flush with one another if you're going for that more advanced option. Legs stay glued together throughout the movement. And it's okay to find a limit. You don't necessarily, again, want to be at the end of our journey right away. We won't learn anything through that process. So notice where your limit is. Feel what tightens up, what's working hardest. And then as you come back to center, you're naturally kind of suggesting that that energy moves back into center with your movement of the body, with your attention. okay? He'll come back to center now, release head, shoulders to the mat. Just bring your knees in towards your chest and give a little rock side to side.